Except for that name-brand product rainbow, there's nothing else to look at. When I look at people, all I can see is the back of everybody's head. Even if I turn super fast, all I can catch is somebody's ear turning away. And folks are talking to God. "Oh, God," they say. "Did you see that?" And, "Was that a mask? Christ, it's a bit early for Halloween." Everybody is very busy reading the labels on French's mustard and rice-a-roni. So I take a turkey. I don't know why. I don't have any money. But I take a turkey. I dig the big frozen turkeys around, those big flesh-tone lumps of ice in the freezer bin. I dig around until I find the biggest turkey, and I heft it up baby style in its yellow plastic netting. I haul myself up to the front of the store, right through the check stands, and nobody stops me. Nobody's even looking. They're all reading those tabloid newspapers as if there's hidden gold there.
"Singing the over,"
I say.
"Now which is with instances?"
Nobody looks.
"If you air,"
I say in my best ventriloquist voice. Nobody even talks. Maybe just the clerks talk. "Do you have 2 pieces of ID?" they're asking people writing checks.
"Frequently if severe,"
I say. Then it is. It's right then. A boy says, "Look!" Everybody who's not looking and not talking stops breathing. The little boy says, "Look, Mom! Look over there! That monster's stealing food!" Everybody gets all shrunken up with embarrassment. All their heads drop down into their shoulders the way they'd look on crutches. They're reading tabloid headlines harder than ever. "Monster Girl Steals Festive Holiday Bird." And there I am, deep-fried in my cotton crepe dress, a 25-pound turkey in my arms, the turkey sweating, my dress almost transparent, my nipples are rock-hard against the yellow netted ice in my arms, me under my buttercream frosting hairdo. Nobody looking at me as if I've won a big anything. A hand comes down and slaps the little boy, and the boy starts to wail. The boy's wailing the way you cry if you've done nothing wrong but you got punished anyway. The sun's setting outside. Inside, everything's dead. Except this little voice screaming over and over, "Why did you hit me? I didn't do anything. Why did you hit me? What did I do?" I took the turkey. I walked as fast as I could back to La Paloma Memorial Hospital. It was almost dark. The whole time I'm hugging the turkey, I'm telling myself turkeys, seagulls, magpies, birds ate my face. Back in the hospital, coming down the hallway toward me, is Sister Catherine leading a man in his IV stand, the man all wrapped in gauze and hung with drain tubes and plastic bags of yellow and red fluids leaking into and out of him. Birds ate my face. From closer and closer, Sister Catherine shouts, "Yoo-hoo! I have someone special here you'd just love to meet." Birds ate my face. Between me and them is the speech therapist office, and when I go to duck inside, there's Brandy Alexander for the 3rd time. The queen of everything good and kind is wearing the sleeveless Versace kind of tank dress with this season's overwhelming feel of despair and corrupt resignation. Body-conscious, yet humiliated. Buoyant, but crippled. The Queen Supreme is the most beautiful anything I've ever seen, so I just vogue there to watch from the doorway. "Men," the therapist says, "stress the adjective when they speak." The therapist says, "For instance, a man would say, 'You are so attractive today.'" Brandy is so attractive, you could chop her head off and put it on blue velvet in the window at Tiffany's and somebody would buy it for $1 million. A woman would say, "You are so attractive today," the therapist says. "Now you, Brandy, you say it. Stress the modifier, not the adjective." Brandy Alexander looks her burning blueberry eyes at me in the doorway and says, "Posing girl, you are so god-awful ugly. Did you let an elephant sit on your face or what?" Brandy's voice, I barely hear what she says. At that instant, I just adore Brandy so much. Everything about her feels as good as being beautiful and looking in a mirror. Brandy is my instant royal family, my only everything to live for. I go, and I pile the cold, wet turkey into the speech therapist's lap, her sitting pinned under 25 pounds of dead meat in her roll-around leather desk chair. From closer down the hallway, Sister Catherine is yelling, "Yoo-hoo!"
Raven with triage.
I go and wheel the therapist and her chair into the hallway. I say,
John Winkton dog witches.
The speech therapist, she's smiling up at me and says, "You don't have to thank me, it's just my job is all." The nuns arrived with the man in his IV stand, a new man with no skin or crushed features or all his teeth bashed out, a man who'd be perfect for me, my one true love, my deformed or mutilated or diseased Prince Charming, my unhappily ever after, my hideous future, the monstrous rest of my life. I slam the office door and lock myself inside with Brandy Alexander. There's the speech therapist's notebook on her desk, and I grab it. "Save me," I write, and wave it in Brandy's face. I write, "Please." Jump to Brandy Alexander's hands. This always starts with her hands. Brandy Alexander puts a hand out, one of those hairy, pig-knuckled hands with the veins of her arm crowded and squeezed to the elbow with bangle bracelets of every color. Just by herself, Brandy Alexander is such a shift in the beauty standard that no one thing stands out. Not even you. "So, girl," Brandy says, "what all happened to your face?" "Birds," I write. Birds ate my face." And I start to laugh. Brandy doesn't laugh. Brandy says, "What's that supposed to mean?" And I'm still laughing. "I was driving on the freeway," I write, and I'm still laughing. "Someone shot a .30 caliber bullet from a rifle. The bullet tore my entire jawbone off my face." Still laughing. "I came to the hospital," I write. "I did not die," laughing. "They couldn't put my jaw back because seagulls had eaten it." And I stop laughing. "Girl, your handwriting is terrible," Brandy says. "Now tell me what else." And I start to cry. What else, I write, is I have to eat baby food. I can't talk. I have no career. I have no home. My fiancé left me. Nobody will look at me. All my clothes, my best friend ruined them. I'm still crying. "What else?" Brandy says. "Tell me everything." "A boy," I write. "A little boy in the supermarket called me a monster." Those burning blueberry eyes look right at me the way no eyes have all summer. "Your perception is all fucked up," Brandy says. "All you can talk about is trash that's already happened," she says. "You can't base your life on the past or the present." Brandy says, "You have to tell me about your future." Brandy Alexander, she stands up on her gold lame leg-hold trap shoes. The Queen Supreme takes a jeweled compact out of her clutch bag and snaps the compact open to look at the mirror inside. "That therapist," those plumbago lips say. "The speech therapist can be so stupid about these situations." The big jeweled arm muscles of Brandy sit me down in the seat still hot from her ass, and she holds the compact so I can see inside. Instead of face powder, it's full of white capsules. Where there should be a mirror, there's a close-up photo of Brandy Alexander smiling and looking terrific. "They're Vicodins, dear," she says. "It's the Marilyn Monroe School of Medicine where enough of any drug will cure any disease." She says, "Dig in, help yourself." The thin and eternal goddess that she is, Brandy's picture smiles up at me over a sea of painkillers. This is how I met Brandy Alexander. This is how I found the strength not to get on with my former life. This is how I found the courage not to pick up the same old pieces. "Now," those plumbago lips say, "you're going to tell me your story like you just did. Write it all down. Tell that story over and over. Tell me your sad-ass story all night." That Brandy queen points a long bony finger at me. "When you understand," Brandy says, "that what you're telling is just a story. It isn't happening anymore. When you realize the story you're telling is just words, then you can just crumble it up and throw your past in the trash can," Brandy says. "Then we'll figure out who you're going to be." Chapter 4. Jump to the Canadian border. Jump to the three of us in a rented Lincoln Town car waiting to drive south from Vancouver, British Columbia into the United States. Waiting with Signore Romeo in the driver's seat. Waiting with Brandy next to him in the front. Waiting with me alone in the back. "The police have microphones," Brandy tells us. The plan is, if we make it through the border, we'll drive south to Seattle where there are nightclubs and dance clubs where go-go boys and go-go girls will line up to buy the pockets of my purse clean. We have to be quiet, because the police, they have microphones on both sides of the border, United States and Canadian. This way they can listen in on people waiting to cross. We could have Cuban cigars, fresh fruit, diamonds, diseases. Drugs, Brandy says. Brandy, she tells us to shut up a mile before the border, and we wait in line, quiet. Brandy unwinds the yards and yards of brocade scarf around her head. Brandy, she shakes her hair down her back and ties the scarf over her shoulders to hide her torpedo cleavage. Brandy switches to simple gold earrings. She takes off her pearls and puts on a little chain with a gold cross. This is a moment before the border guard.
Your nationalities?
The border guard guy, sitting inside his little window behind his computer terminal with his clipboard and his blue suit behind his mirrored sunglasses and behind his gold badge, says. Sir, Brandy says, and her new voice is as bland and drawled out as grits without salt or butter. She says, Sir, we are citizens of the United States of America, what used to be called the greatest country on earth until the homosexuals and child pornographers.
Your names?
Says the border guy. Brandy leans across Alpha to look up at the border guy.
My husband, she says, is an innocent man. Your name, please?
He says, no doubt looking up our license plate, finding it's a rental car rented in Billings, Montana 3 weeks ago, maybe even finding the truth about who we really are. Maybe finding bulletin after bulletin from all over Western Canada about 3 nutcases stealing drugs at big houses up for sale. Maybe all this is spooling onto his computer screen, maybe none of it. You never know. I am married, Brandy is almost yelling to get his attention. I am the wife of the Reverend Scooter Alexander, she says, still half laid across Alpha's lap. And this, she says, and draws the invisible line from her smile to Alpha, this is my son-in-law, Seth Thomas. Her big hand flies toward me in the back seat. This, she says, is my daughter, Bubba Joan. Some days I hate it when Brandy changes our lives without warning. Sometimes twice in one day, you have to live up to a new identity. A new name, new relationships, handicaps. It's hard to remember who I started this road trip being. No doubt this is the kind of stress the constantly mutating AIDS virus must feel. Sir, the border guy says to Seth, formerly Alfa Romeo, formerly Chase Manhattan, formerly Nash Rambler, formerly Wells Fargo, formerly Eberhard Faber. The guard says,
Sir, are you bringing any purchases back with you into the United States?
My pointed little toe of my shoe reaches under the front seat and gooses my new husband. The details of everything have us surrounded. The mud flats left by low tide are just over there, with little waves arriving one after another. The flower beds on our other side are planted to spell out words you can only read from a long ways off. Up close, it's just so many red and yellow wax begonias. Don't tell me you've never watched our Christian Healing Network, Brandy says. She fiddles with the little gold cross at her throat. If you just watched one show, you'd know that God in his wisdom has made my son-in-law mute and he cannot speak. The border guy keyboards some quick strokes. This could be crime, he's typed, or drugs, or shoot. It could be smugglers, or arrest. Not a word, Brandy whispers next to Seth's ear. You talk, and in Seattle I'll change you into Harvey Wallbanger. The border guy says,
To admit you to the United States, I'm going to have to see your passports, please.
Brandy licks her lips wet and shining, her eyes moist and bright. Her brocade scarf slips low to reveal her cleavage as she looks up at the border guard and says, Would you excuse us a moment? Brandy sits back in her own seat and Seth's window hums all the way up. Brandy's big torpedoes inhale big and then exhale. Don't anybody panic, she says, and pops her lipstick open. She makes a kiss in the rearview mirror and pokes the lipstick around the edge of her big plumbago mouth, trembling so much that her one big hand has to hold her lipstick hand steady. I can get us back into the States, she says, but I'm going to need a condom and a breath mint. Around her lipstick, she says, Bubba Joan, be a sweetheart and hand me up one of those estroderms, will you? Seth gives her the mint and a condom. She says, Let's guess how long it takes him to find a week's supply of girl juice soaking into his ass. She pops the lipstick shut and says, Blot me, please. I hand her up a tissue and an estrogen patch.